Hello friends, welcome to another session of video tutorial on Selenium. In today's session we are going to take a look at TestNG. Please subscribe, share, comment and like the videos on this channel. The topics which we are going to cover today are: what is TestNG, the features of TestNG, how do we install TestNG, annotations and different types of annotations. Later on we will take a look at examples. The examples mainly cover the priority of test cases, enabling and disabling the test cases, groups, parameters, depends on method and parallel tests. And finally we will look at executing the test cases using TestNG XML file. Okay, so let us begin with TestNG. TestNG is a unit testing framework similar to JUnit. And who uses this? It is used both by testing and development team. In TestNG, NG means next generation. Okay, it's similar to JUnit. And it is only available and used with Java language. Overall, TestNG is a open source unit testing framework which can be both used by developers as well as test engineers, which is similar to JUnit, and it is only available and can be used with Java language, and it is developed by Cedric Bust of Google. Let us look at what are the features of TestNG. The features of TestNG are: it provides HTML reports, and TestNG uses annotations which are easier to understand. TestNG provides flexible test configuration. That means you can sequence and configure dependency test cases. It also allows grouping of test cases. It also provides a data provider which can be used to fetch the data from Excel sheet for a data-driven testing. You can run the tests in parallel. It also supports parameters. What are TestNG annotations? Annotations in TestNG are the lines of code that can control how the method below them will be executed. They are always preceded by @ symbol. So there are different annotations available, like before suite, after suite, before test, after test, before groups, after groups, there is a before class, after class, before method and after method, and there is a data provider annotation, there is a factory annotation, there is a listener annotation, and then there is a add parameters annotations. We will make use of these annotations and see an example. Okay, so let us switch over to Eclipse. You need to install TestNG. The installation of TestNG is straightforward. What you need to do is you need to go to Help, Eclipse Marketplace, search for TestNG. Okay, since I have it installed here, if you don't have it installed, instead of installed, you will get a install button. Once you click on install, it will go and install that TestNG. Okay, so that is the installation part. Okay, so now we will proceed with our example. Okay, so I'm going to create a Maven project, file, new project, click on Maven project. Okay, so I'm going to use quick start archetype. Next, so what I will do is I will have a group ID as com or edu dot trainer dot testng. Okay, so the artifact ID I'm going to give it as testng demo. Okay, click on finish. Okay, it has created a project for us. Okay, first thing is, since we are not going to use JUnit, since we don't need this, I'm going to delete this dependency. Okay, so since we are going to use Selenium Java, I'm going to go to Maven repository, search for Maven repository and look for Selenium Java. Okay, I'm going to take 3.14.0. I'm going to copy this dependency and paste it here. Save it. Okay, so let me close this. Okay, since we have deleted JUnit, it will create by default app test.java, which I'm going to delete it now. Okay, by default it has created app.java, so I'm going to delete this as well. Okay, and the next thing is add testng library. Okay, so right click, go to properties, go to Java build path. Okay, and then click on add library. If you install testng successfully, under add library it should display testng also. So select testng, click on next and then click on finish. Okay, click on apply. Okay, so now we have both Maven dependency as well as testng attached to this particular project. Okay, so now what I will do is I'm going to create a new class here, new class called annotation demo. Okay, so I'm not going to select static void main because since we are using testng, we need not have to have main method. So instead of main method, we are going to use annotations. Click on finish. Okay, now we will go back and refer to the annotations Okay, as this line says, annotations in TestNG are the lines of code that can control how a method below them will be executed. So that means whenever we use these annotations, there should be a method associated with that. Okay, so what I will do is I'm going to create a method public void before suite. Okay, and then I'm going to pass in sys. Okay, I'm going to have system.out.println. Okay, for this I'm going to provide add before suite annotation. Okay, I'm going to provide add before suite. Okay, so now we need to add since it belongs to org testng annotations, I need to import this. Import org dot testng dot annotations dot star. Okay, so now this error has gone away. The same way I am gonna have I'll copy this and I'm gonna have after suite. Okay, I'm going to change the method name as after suite. Okay, the same way I'm going to copy these. I'm going to use few more annotations. That is, okay, we have used before suite and after suite, before test and after test. So we'll use before test okay, so this will become after test. Okay, I'm gonna have few more before groups and after groups. We will take a look at later on. And okay, before class and after class. After class, before method and after method. Okay, before method okay, after method Okay, so now I have used some of the annotation here. Somewhere down the line I'm going to have add test annotation also. Okay, this out. So now whatever we used to write in main method, that will be replaced with add annotation. In TestNG we are not going to use any main method. Okay. So apart from this, we can also have normal methods inside the class. You need not have to have only annotations in a class. So I can also have like public void print hello. Okay, sys out. Okay, so we can also have normal methods. Okay, so what I have here is before suite, after suite, before test, after test, before class, after class, at test, before method, and after method. Okay, so these are some of the annotations. So let us execute this first and see what output are we going to get. Okay, again to execute this, you need to right click on this. Okay, and run as testng test. Okay, so let us take a look. Okay, let me copy this. Paste it into notepad. Okay, now the sequence of execution is it runs first before suite, then before test, then before class, and before method. Then the test case gets executed, then after method, after class, after test, and finally after suite. Okay, so this is how it sequences the execution. So in our case, so whatever the preconditions which we have, for a test case can be defined in before annotations. Okay, so this is the post conditions. Okay, all the post conditions are inside after annotations, that is after method, after class, after test. So if we have any initialization for a test suite, we can have all those initializations in the before suite, and any finalized methods that we can define at the after suite level. The same way, any preconditions can be put into any of these before annotations. Make sure that whatever the before annotation you use, the same annotation is used for after also. That means if you're using before class, make sure you use after class annotation, okay, along with the test case. Okay, so now this is a simple test. Okay, what I will do is I will add another test case here and see what will change now. Okay, now I'm going to add another test. I'm going to call this as test case 1. Okay, I'm going to execute this again. Right click, run as testng. Okay, so let us copy the sequence again. Okay, I'm going to open up another notepad. Okay, I'm going to keep this side by side so that we can see. So this is the second execution on the right, and this is the first execution on the left. Okay, until this point of time, okay, before class is executed, everything remains same, and then okay, so there is a before method which gets executed, and then test case gets executed, and there is an after method gets executed, and then again a repeated before method is executed. So this means, so this is executed in pair. That means before method and after method gets executed for every test case, but before suite, before test and before class gets executed only once. Okay, so now we concluded that for every test case, before method and after method gets executed. Okay. Okay, now let us get back to one real example. So that is, I'm going to create a new class. Okay. Okay, I'm going to call it as Heroku app demo. Okay, and then click on finish. Okay, so let us take a look at one real example now. So what are the things which we do? Okay, initialize the driver path. Okay, and that is string dpath is equal to call it as str dpath equal to d:// then okay, before this I'm going to create a method, because the annotation will use a method. So I'm going to define a public void okay. So inside this I'm going to have this, okay, and after this I'm going to set the property okay, system.set property WebDriver dot Chrome dot driver value will be strdpath plus Chrome driver dot exe. Okay, then create an object of WebDriver. WebDriver driver is equal to new of, I'm going to use Chrome driver, so which is for Chrome. Okay, so driver dot manage dot window dot maximize. So I'm going to maximize the window. Then driver, okay, go to the URL which is driver.get the internet.herokuapp.com. Okay, okay, so let us go back to the internet herokuapp.com. Okay, so in this I'm going to click on the link A/B testing. Okay, so for this okay, driver dot find element y dot link text. The link test which I'm interested is A/B testing dot click. Okay, so this is my test, and then finally I'm going to close the driver dot close. Okay, so this is a simple example which will click on the link test. Okay, so the link which is A/B testing. So for using TestNG I have to use annotation, so I'm going to use @test annotation here. So I'm going to import annotations here. Okay, so let me run this and see whether it executes. Okay, so now it says the test case passed. Few things to note here is, okay, whenever we use Java, we were not getting any information whether the test case is passed or not. Okay, so currently we are getting whether the test case is passed or failed. Okay, and then after adding TestNG, we also get another output window, which is a kind of we will also get the result window for TestNG. In this, we can also see, okay, by default it is going to use default suite, and then there's a default test, and this is our package, and this is our test case. So as you can see, test 1 of 1, okay, and since it is in green color, so this has passed. So you can see pass, fail, and skipped. Okay, so if there is a failure, then you will get an exception here. Okay, so this is another result from TestNG which we get, which we don't get it whenever we use a simple Java project. Okay, and apart from this, TestNG will also provide you a HTML report. To see the HTML report, you need to refresh this. Okay, so it generates something called test output folder after you run that, and there is index.html here, which you can double click on or go to properties, and then you can open up that in the browser. Okay, I'm going to open up another one. Okay, so this is kind of a HTML report which we get, which we were not getting whenever we used a simple Java project. Okay, which gives you, there's one test, just default test, there's one class which ran, and there's one method and one passed. Passed method is Heroku, a link test, which we just executed. Okay, so this is kind of HTML report which we get with, which is a default HTML report which we get with TestNG. Okay, so this is another feature of TestNG. Okay, so from previous example we know that for a test there is from previous test we know that for a test, before method and after method gets executed every time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this program or this test case to add at before method. I'm going to call I'm going to create another one, another method, public void init. Okay, so I'm going to initialize all these here. Okay, I'm going to copy this. Okay, all the initialization part went in there. Okay, I'm going to create another method, public void cleanup. Okay, so here I'm going to driver dot close. Okay, so I'm going to have this as after method. Okay, so now the entire test case is divided into 3 parts. Okay, so we have some error here. Okay, since a driver is used by all these methods, I need to declare it outside within the class. So I will go and declare this here. Okay. Okay, so now that error has gone away. Okay, so now what I have done is, earlier I had one test, I didn't have any other annotation, so I have split that into before method annotation and after method annotation. As we know that for every test, before and after method is called. So in before method, I'm initializing and I'm setting the property and I'm creating an object of Chrome driver. In the test, I'm going to go to that particular URL which I'm interested in, and then I'm doing some operation. After method, I'm doing a cleanup, that is, I'm closing the driver. Let us run this and see. Okay, to run this, I'll select the class, run as testng test. The test has passed, so it is still working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another test here. So public void Google title test. Okay, so this again, since this is another test case, so I'm going to add test annotation for this one also. And here, instead of going to Heroku, what I'm going to do is driver dot get www.google.co.in. Okay, HTTPS. Okay. Okay, and get the title. I'll get the title first. I'll store it in a string. Driver dot get title. Okay, and then I'm going to print this title. Plus G title. I'm going to add a sleep here so that we see whether it has gone to the next page after clicking that link. Okay. I'm going to use thread dot sleep. So I'm going to use it for 2 seconds. Okay. So getting some error here. Okay, I'm going to add those. Okay, so now we have two test cases. One goes to the internet hero kuapp.com and clicks on this link. The other one goes to google.co.in and then gets the title and prints the title. Okay, so now we have two test cases. So let us run this. Okay. As you can see, it ran both the tests one after the other and both of them passed. So first it ran Google title test and then Heroku link test. So whenever we have add test, multiple add test, so it picks up in alphabetical order. So Google title test will run first and then Heroku link test. Okay, so that is the order in which it ran. Okay, now let us go back to our slide. And then see how to use priority. Okay, so since it is running in this order, Google title test and then Heroku link test, I want to run Heroku link test first and then Google title test next. So for that, I can provide a parameter within test annotation, which is priority. So I can set this priority to and then this priority okay. So now I'm expecting it to run Heroku link test first now and then Google title test. So whichever has got the lowest priority, that will run first. Okay, so let us run this and see. Okay, it has first opened internet hero kpp.com and then now followed by Google. Okay, so now the order has changed. So this way you can prioritize which test case needs to be run first and then which test case needs to be run after that by using priority. Okay, so the next example which you're going to see is enable and disabling a test. Suppose say in some cases you might not want to run some of the test cases. In that case what you can do is you can add in another parameter called enabled. You can set it to false. By default it is true. Okay, so in this case I'm not going to run Google title test, so only I'm interested in Heroku and link test. Okay, so let us run this again quickly, then see whether that works or not. Okay, so only one test is run now, and that is pass. Okay, total number of tests run is 1 and failure is 0 and skips 0. Since we have disabled this test case, this has not been executed. Here you can provide one or multiple parameters. Okay, let us look at depends on methods now. What happens in depends on method is, suppose say if there is a test case which depends on some other test case. For example, if I want to send an email, first thing is I should be logged in. So sending mail method depends on login method. Okay, so if login fails, then it should not execute the sending email method or test case. So we can achieve that by using depends on method. Say for example here, so I'm going to create two methods at test public void login sys out and then I'm going to create another test I'm going to create another test and test public void send email. Sys out and sending email. Let me disable the other test cases for the time being. So enabled is equal to false. So I'm only interested in these two test cases now, which is login and send email. Now as soon as I run this, okay, I should be getting logged in successfully and sending email. How do I make sure that only after logging in I should be able to send an email? That means this send email test case depends on this login method. So for that, what I need to do is depends on methods is equal to login, the name of the method. Okay, let me run this. Right click, again run as testng test. Okay, it opened the browser because we have initialized this here. Okay, Chrome driver here, so that is why it opened the browser. So you have to remember that at every test, before method and after method gets executed. Okay, so what we are interested is this login and send email. Okay, so now it says login is passed and then send email is passed. So let us see. Okay, so let us add something into login which fails the login method and check whether send email works or not. So what I'm going to do here is, so I'm going to add a variable int I is equal to 5 divided by 0. So I know that 5 divided by 0 will cause an exception and this login will fail, and once this fails, this method should not be executed. Okay, so this should cause an exception and method will fail. Whenever this fails, this should not execute. Let us run this and see. Right click, run as testng test. Save this. Okay, so now we can see that login has failed. That means this test case failed because of this exception, and we got that exception here, which is arithmetic exception divided by 0. Since this failed, test run is 2, failure is 1, and then skips 1. This sending an email test case is skipped because it depends on this login method which failed. Okay, you need to ensure one thing here. So whenever you say depends on method, you should make sure that you provide the correct method name, and this method name should match the method name which it depends on. In my case, it is login here. Okay, so this should match with this here. Okay, so that is about depends on method. Let us go back to slide. So we have already looked at priority, we looked at enable and disable, we looked at depends on methods. Okay, groups parameters parallel tests. For this we need an XML, so we need to know how to generate that XML, which is this topic here. So once I cover this TestNG XML file, then we will go back to groups, parameters and parallel tests. Okay, so since we have one test case, to generate TestNG XML file, right click on the class, go to TestNG and then click on convert to TestNG. Okay, so now by default the location will be your project location, and the name of the file is TestNG. You can change this to any file name. Okay, simple demo. Okay, so you can change the suite name also. Okay, simple demo, and the test name is, I'm going to have it as again simple test case. Okay, now this is the XML file it is going to generate. Okay, click on finish. Okay, so it has generated simple demo XML file. TestNG test cases can be run using by right clicking on the class file and run as TestNG test, or you can also right click on the generated XML file, select run as and TestNG suite. Okay, so let us go to our TestNG XML file which we have generated just now. Okay, so this is a general XML file wherein it has suite name which we have given as simple demo, and then test, and it has got name which is simple test case. It has one class. Okay, under classes it has got one class which is Heroku app demo, which is this class. That is the one which we selected. So we can also run this using by right click on the XML file and run as TestNG suite. Okay, so it still runs that test which is depends on test. You can notice that when we use XML file, there is not a lot of output. Okay, so all it says is it's a simple demo which is a suite name, total test run is 2, failure is 1 and skips 1. But whenever we right clicked on the class and then ran as a test, we got a lot more output. Okay, so now we can go back and check the results. TestNG result window. So here you can see under all test. Okay, so simple demo is our suite name and simple test case is our test name, and this belongs to this package. We had two tests, one is login and send email. Okay, it says test 1 of 1 methods 2. So this red means there's a failure, and the exception is divided by 0 exception. Okay, passed 0, failed 1 and skipped 1. Okay, you can take a look at which one has failed. So you can see there is one which failed, which is login, and you can go to summary and see the class count. We have only one class and there are two test methods, which is in our case test cases. Okay, now another thing to note is Okay, so let us refresh this test output again. Okay, since we have created a new suite, which is simple demo suite, it has created another folder under test output with that particular suite name to see okay, inside that it has got simple test case HTML file. Let us right click on this and see what this simple test case HTML contains. Open up a new tab. Okay, now this simple test case says, okay, so this is a kind of report which we will be sending it to a team lead or a manager. It says total passed, failed or skipped. So passed is 0, failed is 1 and skipped is 1. Okay, so when it was started and the total time it has taken to run the test cases. Okay, so what are the test methods? Test method is login method and the other one is send email method. Okay, and then red means, so there's a failed test, and this color means skipped test. Okay, you can click on this to expand. Okay, you can click on that to expand as well and see what happened. So you can investigate using this HTML file. Okay, so there is another HTML file which is index.html. So that gets generated as well. Now we can see, so there are under results there are two methods, one failed, one skipped. Failed method is login method and skipped method is send email. So here also we can see, okay, so which one is failed and then which one is skipped. Okay, and this is the XML file which it has used. Okay, and the time taken for each of them. Okay, the login test case took 9 milliseconds and the second one didn't run. Okay, so these are ignored methods. So since we are not running these tests, so these are disabled methods. Okay, so these are the steps which it followed. Yeah. First it ran init and then went to login and then cleanup. Okay, we can go back and take a look at groups now. Okay, so what I will do is for groups I'm going to create another class here. So right click, create a new class. Okay, I'm going to call this as group and demo. Okay, so I'm going to copy whatever we had in Heroku app demo and then paste it under this. Okay, and I'm going to copy some of these. Okay, I'm going to copy this and then paste it into demo. Okay. Okay, so now we have another class here called group demo. So what I will do is I will add two more test cases, one related to hero KUAPP and then the other one is Google. Okay, so instead of these two, I'm going to take out these two. And I'm going to add another test. So I'm going to enable all of them first, or I'm going to delete this parameters. Okay, I'm going to okay, so here I'm going to check. So I'm going to click on checkboxes and then select this checkbox. Okay, to do that, to go to herokuapp.com. So this will be logo check box test. Okay, and then click on the link checkboxes. Okay, and then select the check box. That to find out the property of this. Okay, let us go to property and input type checkbox. Okay, input and type is equal to checkbox. Okay, so I have two elements, so I need to check on the first one. Okay, I'm going to use XPath for this. Please refer to the video which I posted earlier on how to become an expert in XPath and CSS. Here I'm going to use so driver dot find element. So in this case I'm going to use by XPath. Okay, and then click. Okay, so the same way I'm going to add another test to click on. The Gmail link. Okay, so instead of getting the title, click on Gmail link. Okay, to do that, so driver dot find element by dot link text Gmail. Make sure it is the cases are correct. Okay, so now I have two tests belonging to Heroku and 2 tests belonging to Google. If I want to group them, I can group them by providing parameter here. So that is the first step. Groups is equal to flower bracket, and inside the flower bracket I'm going to give it as Heroku test. Okay, so copy this and then paste it into another Heroku test. Okay, the other 2 test keys belongs to Google. Okay, so now instead of Heroku test, I'm going to call it as Google test. Okay, Control C and then Control V. Okay, so now I have 2 test cases for Google and 2 test cases for Heroku app. Okay, we have provided this, but the control point is in XML file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an XML file based on this class. Now again convert to testng. So I'm going to call this XML file as groups.xml. So I'm going to leave suite name and test name as it is. Okay, click on finish. So now I need to go to this groups XML file. Okay, under test. Okay, after test, if I click on this, so I can specify groups here. Okay, as you can see, there's groups here. Okay, under groups, I need to specify which one I want to run. Okay, that means which groups do I need to run, and under run I can include. Okay, so the name of the group will be same as this group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it as Google test. Okay, so make sure that this name matches with your group name. So Control A and then Control I to indent. Okay, save this file and now run this. Run the XML file. Right click on groups XML file, run as testng suite. Okay, so let us see what happened. Both failed. Okay, since we are getting null pointer exception here, okay, so let us see where I'm getting the null pointer. Okay, it looks like the driver is not getting initialized here. The possible reason would be before method is not run. Okay, whenever we use groups, we need to if we want to run before method and after method, so we have to specify the group name here also. Groups is equal to, since I want to run before method and after method for all groups, so I'm going to specify both groups here. Heroku test, comma, and then Google test. Okay, so I have specified both here, Roku test and Google test. So the same thing I need to do it for after method. Okay, so this will ensure that before method and after method is run for group test also. Okay, so it will save this and rerun this test. Okay, sorry, run as TestNG suite. Remember, we have enabled only Google test. Okay, so it has opened that Google page, got the title, and then it opens up Google and clicks on Gmail. Okay, so now, so two tests run and failures are 0. Okay, so now I'm going to edit this, and then I'm going to include the other one also. Include, that is Heroku test. Okay, I'm going to run that. Now it should run all the tests. Okay, it's running Google test first. And then Heroku app. Okay, so all test cases ran and all of them passed now. So now I can also use, instead of include, I can also exclude this. So for example, exclude name Google test. So instead of including, I can also exclude the Google test. So here, by making it as exclude, I exclude these group of test cases. So these groups will be helpful whenever you have regression suite, UAT suite, functional tests, smoke tests. So you can include or exclude some of them and run those tests. Okay, so that is about groups. Now let us take a look at parameters. I'm going to create another class here. Okay, so parameters demo. Okay, so here I'm going to create a simple method at test public void test. Okay. Okay, so this is a simple test. So to this, if I want to pass in some parameter, I have to use at parameters annotation. Okay, so add parameters. Okay, here I'm going to provide user in the two parameters. which is user pass. Okay, so I need to enclose this in flower bracket. Okay, the rule with parameters is the number of parameters you have, so the same number of parameters, that is input parameters, the method should also have. For example, here I'm passing in 2 parameters, so I should have 2 input parameters for that particular method also. So if I have 3 parameters here, this method will also have 3 parameters. So here string uname, string upass. Parameters passed are equals name plus user pass is equal to upass. After creating this class, I will create a TestNG XML file. Okay, I'm going to call this as parameters.xml file. .xml file. Click on finish. Okay, so now this doesn't have any class, so I'm going to add a class here. Class, first classes, underneath classes I'm going to add a class, and the name is full path of this particular class. So I'm going to copy the full path from another XML file. Okay, and then paste it here, and the class name is parameters demo. Meters demo. We have set up the class here now. Now we need to, since this class is going to use 2 parameters, which is username and user pass, so we need to specify them here. Okay, after this class, so I'm going to add parameter here. So parameter name will be same as this name. Okay, and the value I'm going to pass in as Raj Tech Trainer. Okay, so this is the first parameter. The second parameter I'm going to add is this user pass. Make sure they both match. Okay, the value I'm going to pass it is pass at 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so these 2 parameters are defined for this particular class, and the name is username and then user password, and the values are Raj Tech Trainer and pass at 1 2 3 4 5. So what will happen here is, as soon as this test gets executed, the value for username parameter will be passed to this uname, and the value for user pass is passed to upass from the XML file. Okay, so let us run this. Run as testng. Wait. Okay, so let us see what happened here. Cannot find class in class path edu Raj Tech Trainer parameter. Okay, so there is a missing parameters demo. Okay, so I'm going to save this again, run this. Okay, so this time it ran, and then what we are printing here is whatever the parameter which is passed. Okay, so here it says parameter test. Parameter passed are username contains hashtag trainer, and user pass contains pass at 12345. That means whatever the value username has, that has been passed to uname. Whatever the value user pass has, that has been passed to upass, and then the same gets printed here. Okay, so this is how we use parameters. Okay, let us take a look at parallel test now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another package here. I'm going to call it as edu dot rajtech trainer dot parallel test. Okay, I'm going to finish this. So I'm going to create a class here called parallel demo. Parallel demo. Okay, I'm going to copy the code which I have created to save some time. Okay, so what I have done is I have copied the existing two test cases. One is to click on go to the internet hero kuapp.com and then clicking on the link A/B testing. The second test case is going into google.co.in and then get the title. So what I have done here is inside the method I have all the initialization as well as cleanup code. Okay, I am initializing the driver and closing the driver within the methods. Okay, can create our own XML file. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this new file. Okay, I'm going to call this as parallel test demo.xml file. Okay, so I'm going to copy the header from here, the first two lines, paste it here, and after that what I'm going to have is I'm going to have a suite. I'm going to call this as parallel demo suite. Inside that I'm going to have test. I'm going to call the test as parallel method, and I'm going to have another parameter called parallel. So this parallel will take the following parameter value. So this I'm going to set it as methods first, and I'm going to have thread count as 5. Okay, under this I'm going to have classes. Okay, under classes I'm going to have class, and the name of the class is parallel demo. Parallel demo is under edu dot raj tech trainer dot parallel test dot parallel demo. Okay, so this is the full path including the package name. So I'm taking this one. Okay, so inside this class I have two methods which I'm going to run them in parallel. Okay, so control A and then save this XML file. Right click on this XML file and then run as TestNG suite. Okay, as you can see, it has opened two different browsers and the tests are running in parallel. The first test already finished and it got the title as Google. So total test run was 2, failure 0, skip 0. This is a simple example of how we can run tests in parallel through methods. Okay, so now instead of parallel, what are the other options which we can give? Under parallel, the other options are methods, tests and classes. Okay, so methods we have seen. Let us look at some other options which we can execute the test cases in parallel. Okay, so methods is one and tests. Since we are having parallel execution within the test, so we cannot make use of this test, but we can make use of classes here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from methods to classes. Okay, so since we have only one class here, okay, so we cannot really show. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another copy of this class and I'm going to call this as parallel demo 2. Okay, after creating this another file, so I'm going to add that under classes here. So this one will be 2. Okay, so now since we have set parallel as classes, so I'm expecting this class and this class, that is parallel demo and parallel demo 2, to run in parallel. Okay, so let us right click on this and then run as TestNG suite. Okay, as you could see, so it opened up two Chrome browsers and ran Google Test first, and then it ran the Hero KUAPP test. Okay, so this is how we can achieve parallelism by using classes. Okay, so now the next example which we are going to see is, instead of providing parallel attributes here, so we can also provide the parallel attribute in suite. Okay, for a suite I'm going to have thread count is equal to 5 and then parallel is equal to, okay, so I'm going to have methods here again. Okay, I'm going to take out this. Okay, instead of having the parallel attribute in test, so I'm having that attribute now in suite. Okay, so I'm going to run this. Let us see. Since I have one class and both the methods are being run in parallel, so whenever I say parallel is equal to methods, all the methods within this parallel demo will be run in parallel. Okay, so instead of methods, now I can give tests. I have only one test here. So if I copy and then paste the one, so I'm going to call this as demo2, which is another class which I have. So now I have two tests. In suite, I have this test as well as this test. So now I'm expecting this to run in parallel. Okay, so let us see what happens now. Right click, run as. Okay, so I'm going to have, this is parallel test 1 and then parallel test 2. Save, right click, TestNG suite. Okay, now you can see that okay, so now you can see from when I say parallel is equal to test, it went into this test, opened up a browser, ran Google test. At the same time, it opened up another browser, it ran this test, and then inside this, it ran Google test. Now, if I want to run the tests or the methods inside this parallel demo in parallel, I can also go back and say, okay, so parallel is equal to method. Okay, again parallel is equal to method. Okay, so now what will happen here is these two tests will run in parallel. This test and this test will run in parallel, and again inside this class I have two methods which will also be run in parallel. So I'm going to provide thread count here also. So equal to 2. Equal to 2. Okay, so now I'm expecting 4 browsers to open and run them in parallel. As you can see, I have 4 browsers open and running them in parallel. Okay, so now since we were looking at parallel attribute in suite, so I'm going to take this one out now. Okay, we have looked at the suite level, parallel is equal to test and methods. Now I'm going to look at classes. Okay, so now I don't need this anymore, but under classes I'm going to add another class, okay, which is parallel demo 2. Okay, so now what will happen here is it will run parallel demo and parallel demo 2 in parallel. Okay, right click, run as TestNG suite. Okay, now two browsers will open, both will run Google test, and then another two browsers will open and then they will run Heroku test. Okay, so now again if I want to make them as parallel, I can give parallel is equal to parallel equals to methods and thread count is equal to 2. Since I have set at the suite level parallel as classes and at the test level I set parallel to methods, so there were 4 browsers open and all of them ran in parallel. This is how we can run the tests in parallel. Okay, that is the end of today's session. Please stand by for more useful videos on this channel. To subscribe to this channel, click on subscribe button and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching.